In a world where belief in God is widespread, the Almighty resides in a modest Brussels apartment with his wife and estranged daughter, Ea. However, the divine family is anything but harmonious. God, bored even before creating the universe, populated Brussels with animals, but found them uninteresting. To add excitement, he crafted the first man, who later encountered the first woman. In the present, Ea has been confined to the apartment for a decade, forbidden to go outside. The mysterious place restricts entry and exit, and her father's office is strictly off-limits. God's wife, oblivious to the family drama, engages in ordinary activities like sewing flowers and collecting baseball cards. She consistently sets an extra place at the table, hoping their absent son will return, a hope God dismisses. Despite Ea possessing powers like her elusive brother, using them earns her reprimands, revealing God's jealousy. God controls humanity through a computer, treating them as playthings, deriving pleasure from their suffering. Dissatisfaction with life leads him to use humans as a distraction, playing a twisted game of inflicting pain and offering bits of happiness for false optimism. In the monotony of his life, God copes by creating the laws of universal irritation, such as bread always falling jam side down, and the line you're not in always moves faster. One day, he accidentally leaves his office door open, providing Eve the opportunity to sneak in. She discovers the harsh reality of her father's heartless manipulation and the suffering he inflicts on humanity. After a challenging confrontation at dinner where Eve questions God's cruelty, he responds with anger, punishing her by whipping her with a belt. Enduring years of emotional and physical abuse strengthens Eve's resolve to bring goodness to humanity and make God understand the pain he causes. Preparing for her secret mission the next day, Eve consults a figurine of her brother JC in her room. A simple call wakes him up, and she seeks advice on how to proceed. JC, experienced with chaos and 12 apostles, suggests gathering a more manageable 6, like a hockey team. Aligning with her mother's favorite number 18, associated with a baseball team, Eve decides to gather apostles. Choosing 6 individuals from God's extensive files, she impresses them with small miracles. JC stresses the importance of creating a brand new testament, centering on the apostles to avoid unnecessary attention. He highlights God's dependence on the computer and its significance. To aid her escape, JC discloses a hacked washing machine leading to a lengthy tunnel. Eve puts her plan into action, capitalizing on God's inebriated slumber to pilfer his office key. Inside, she retrieves 6 humanity cards from the file cabinet and uses the computer to broadcast a text message revealing the date of death to everyone on Earth. Securing her getaway, Eve bids farewell to JC, heads to the washing machine, and enters a tunnel transporting her outside. As she navigates the passage, the world grapples with the revelation of impending deaths. News outlets speculate on the authenticity, unable to deny the unsettling surge of coincidental deaths, aligning with the foretold dates. In a frantic race against time, a woman with only 2 minutes to spare meticulously eliminates every potential danger in her apartment. Yet, her efforts are thwarted when a cupboard collapses on top of her, adding a twist of irony to her attempt at safeguarding herself. Meanwhile, a janitorial technician gains notoriety as the longest-lived man, boasting a remarkable 102 years left to his name. In contrast, a young man deliberately engages in perilous activities, confident that they won't lead to his demise. This newfound sense of invincibility prompts others to abandon work, and even wars are neglected. A nurse grapples with the unfairness of outliving the elderly man she has cared for, while a mother, facing a dwindling clock, tries to spare her slow son from solitude through a failed attempt to end his life. People across social networks document daring feats they once hesitated to attempt. Simultaneously, God awakens to the unfolding chaos, discovering the upheaval through special news flashes replacing regular programming. Fueled by rage upon realizing his missing key and Eve's locked office, he resorts to an axe to breach the barriers. To his dismay, the computer is beyond his reach. Driven by the scent of Eve, he tears through doors, demanding a reboot, until he tracks her to the elusive washing machine. As E emerges from the tunnel, it leads her to another washing machine within a laundromat. As she steps out of the building, she's fascinated by everything she sees and hears. It's her first time experiencing the outside world. The rain starts falling, and she loves the feeling of it. She even enjoys the taste of a burger she finds in the trash, although it makes her throw up. A hobo named Victor comes across her while she's puking and tells her it was the fish burger that caused it, because they make them out of whales. E asks if he can write, and when he says yes, she assigns him as her scribe, asking him to take her to the addresses on the apostles' files. However, he refuses to get involved. This doesn't deter E from following him around, trying to convince him. When she eventually falls asleep, he ends up carrying her, making E wish he had been her dad. E explains to Victor some things, like the fact that Earth is paradise, but he doesn't believe it because that's supposed to come after death. However, E tells him that's not the case, there's nothing after death. Meanwhile, God decides he has to leave the apartment to find E. When his wife tells him it might be dangerous for him since he never ventured outside, he gets furious and starts yelling at her, expressing his frustration over losing control of humanity. In the past, people behaved because the future was uncertain. But now, with no fear of consequences, they can choose whatever path they want for their lives. God is worried that if E gathers followers like JC, she might tell everyone how to avoid misery, and he can't allow that. The wife stays silent in her fear, so after yelling at her for being stupid, God enters the tunnel in the washing machine. Victor takes E to meet her first apostle, Aurelie, who, upon learning she has 11 years left to live, has changed nothing about her life and continues as usual. Aurelie lives alone, which is strange for such a beautiful woman. Most men want her, and most women are jealous of her. But she lives in a constant sad state because when she was a little girl, her arm was ripped off by a subway car, so now she wears a prosthetic. E asks her to talk about herself so Victor can write it down for the brand new testament. Aurelie tells an anecdote of the time when she was approached by a hobo. She had expected him to rob her or ask for money, but instead, he simply said, "Life is like a skating rink, a lot of people fall." Aurelie cries as she tells them how that bit of philosophy got stuck in her head, and she remembers it every time she looks at herself in the mirror. EA, intrigued by Aurelie's story, learns about Aurelie's age and her mother's, and gathers her tears in a jar, a poignant substitute for her inability to cry. EA, attuned to people's inner melodies, identifies Aurelie's as Handel, a Baroque composer, promising her a pleasant dream. As they continue their journey, E questions Victor about his death date, but lacking a phone, he remains unaware. Their next apostle, Jean-Claude, proves elusive. Once an adventurous soul, life forces him into a mundane corporate job, extinguishing his spirit. With 12 years left to live, he discards the trappings of his routine, phone and briefcase, choosing a park bench as his final abode. E, recognizing Jean-Claude's disheartened state, designates his musical counterpart as Rameau. With the ability to converse with animals, she unveils a connection between him and a bird in the park. This revelation prompts Jean-Claude to rise from his bench, captivated by the bird's companionship, and begins to follow it. In the meantime, God finally reaches the laundromat, but faces the ironic challenge of being washed along with the laundry. An old lady, startled by his presence, resorts to pepper spray, prompting God to flee into the rain. His quest for sustenance from a trash can is interrupted by a group of hooligans who deny him the discarded burger, resorting to physical violence. The divine being finds himself in a hospital, where he rebuffs the doctor's attempts to provide care and insults them for withholding morphine. A misguided attempt to snatch a child's slice of bread with jam results in a mother retaliating with her umbrella. The third apostle, Mark, has only 83 days left. Addicted to adult entertainment, he recalls his childhood in a caravan, with faint memories of a girl on the beach. As he aged, unsuccessful romances led him to spend his remaining days on adult shows after withdrawing all his money. E explores his past, questioning the idea of payment, and identifies his musical match as Purcell. She encourages him to use his voice for profit. Following her advice, Mark becomes a voice actor for adult films, unexpectedly connecting with Xenia, the beach girl. They bond over literature, and their journey leads them back to Mark's apartment, finding solace falling asleep hand in hand. Back at God's place, the wife, finding peace by turning off the TV, is amazed to see the faces of the new apostles superimposed on a copy of the Last Supper. Meanwhile, God enters a church involved in charity work and gets into a scuffle with some hobos while attempting to cut in line. The priest intervenes, offering him food and reminding him to love his neighbor as God had requested. However, God gets angry, claiming it was JC, not him, who said that, as JC opposed his father's hateful wishes. To prove his identity, God reveals his name to the priest and points out all the misfortunes in his life, laughing and attributing them to his influence. Enraged, the priest starts beating him up, all while the statue of JC inexplicably smiles at them. The fourth apostle, Francois, has 25 years left to live and considers himself an assassin. On the day death dates were revealed, Francois bought a rifle to shoot people, believing it wasn't his fault if they died on their assigned date. He was obsessed with death since childhood, enjoying funerals without feeling sadness. E and Victor find him in the park, and after learning his motive, E designates his musical counterpart as Schubert, a classical composer. She then challenges him to shoot a passing woman, who turns out to be Aurélie. The bullet gets stuck in her prosthetic, but Francois and Victor, unaware of this, think it's a miracle. Francois starts following Aurélie, brushing his hand against hers in the elevator, unaware it's fake. He looks in the mirror, denies being in love, and smashes it in frustration. Ignoring his family for a night, Francois visits Aurélie again, professing his love with flowers in the elevator. Aurélie doesn't respond, but she takes the flowers home. As Jean-Claude follows his bird, he visits the fifth apostle, Martine, with 5 years left. Once a romantic, Martine ended up in a monotonous marriage. After learning her death date, she hired an escort, leading to a disappointing experience. E identifies her musical counterpart as a circus, and at one, Martine connects with a gorilla, a beautiful moment that brings tears to her eyes. E collects her tears, and Martine buys the gorilla, forming a bond. While Aurélie invites Francois, shows him her prosthetic's bullet scar, and they spend the night together. God attempts to return to his apartment, but the washing machines are blocked. The following day, God, still in pursuit of EA, locates her by the river. Determined to have her reboot his computer, he gives chase. E, revealing her divine abilities, walks on water, and Victor, holding her hand, does the same. God attempts the feat, but finds himself sinking. Rescued by a group of men, he ends up in a church where the priest places him on a mattress alongside illegal Uzbek immigrants. Meanwhile, Jean-Claude continues his chase after the bird's mesmerizing flight, creating a beautiful dance with his hands as he guides the flock. The last apostle, Willie, with only 54 days left, decides to embrace a new identity by becoming a girl after a lifetime of illness and surgery. E designates his musical counterpart as Charles Trenet, a jazz musician, and gifts him a dream about a singing fish. Willie and E form a unique bond, sharing the same age and connecting effortlessly. With the support of the other apostles, E arranges a memorable final week for Willie, infusing his remaining days with joy and companionship. During this transformative week, remarkable events unfold among the apostles. Aurélie urges Francois to abandon his destructive path and stop harming others. Martine spends a night with the gorilla, empowering the primate to frighten away her monotonous husband. Mark and Xenia share an intimate night together for the first time, while Jean-Claude reaches the North Pole, guided by the flock forming an arrow, leading him to a local woman. On the final day of the week, God is transported to Uzbekistan alongside other immigrants, while E and the apostles accompany Willie to the beach for his final moments. Amidst these events, God's wife, liberated by the absence of her husband, revels in newfound joy. She dances, sings while cleaning, and even ventures into God's office to vacuum. Unexpectedly, she unplugs the computer, disrupting the sequence of events. This unplanned action by the wife prevents Willie from meeting his demise, causing God's plane to lose altitude, threatening a crash on the beach. In a moment of serendipity, as the wife reconnects the computer, she unknowingly inputs the number 18 as a password. The computer recognizes her as the goddess, and a miraculous reversal occurs. God's plane regains altitude, and the text messages displaying life countdowns disappear. The world undergoes a profound transformation orchestrated by the newly proclaimed goddess. Reality becomes a utopia, adorned with flowers in the sky, the ability to walk on the ocean floor, flexible gravity, and stabilized ice caps. Television broadcasts exclusively positive news. Martine unexpectedly has a baby with the gorilla. Victor gains acclaim as a renowned author with the publication of the Brand New Testament. EA and Willie share their first kiss, and Franzwe, against all odds, becomes pregnant with Aurelie's child. In stark contrast, God finds himself trapped in a Uzbek factory, endlessly checking washing machines in a futile search for an escape.